Hello and welcome to another short video. Today I'm going to be talking about my own A House Through Time moment. One of those surprising occurrences that can happen to anyone who's doing their family tree. One of the things I recommend to people is that they create searches on eBay so that if you have a hit, you receive an email and then you can explore the postcard that has prompted the alert. And these might be postcards of images where your ancestors lived, or you could actually include your ancestors' surnames into the search. And this is something that I've done for my own family and with my father's family, who were from the Midlands. This included looking for postcards of Braids Village, which is an industrial area, part of Oldbury really, lots of factories, canals, definitely an area affected by the Industrial Revolution. And I was keen really to find postcard views of Braids Village as it would have looked when my ancestors were there. So I had this email from eBay which alerted me to this postcard, which you can see was sent to Braids Village to Dudley Road. And I thought that I would have a look to see where my ancestors lived in relation to the address on the card. And this is before I bought the card. So I was quite surprised when I went through the census returns and the certificates that I have for my family to discover that my great grandparents actually lived at this address. They were there in 1901 and in 1911, and that information has come from the census returns. You can see that the postcard was sent from Wales in 1907. So my family were at this address when this postcard was received. So perhaps May, who received the card, was a lodger. I did find a family around the corner with the same surname, and they did have a daughter called May, and I wondered if perhaps she was staying with my family because the house was full. These were relatively small houses, and May's father was a widower and he married again, and so there were lots of children from both relationships. I know that one of the daughters moved to Wales, and so that's a nice coincidence with the person who sent the card. But of course, unless I can match the handwriting on the card to May's sister, then I can't actually prove that this is who I believe received the card. So that's something that I will do in the future, just to see if I can identify her. But of course, it's very nice from my own personal point of view to think that perhaps one of my ancestors handled this card. If it arrived through the door and landed on their mat, did they hand it to her? Or if not, did she show it to them? I never know. But anyway, this sort of led me off on another little journey into genealogy, which I'm sure we're all aware of how it happens. You go off on a tangent, and I just decided I would try and refresh my memory of where my dad's family actually lived. And I have this postcard, which is of a house in Braids Road, and it's number 5. My father has very kindly and helpfully written on the back all the details. And the house is called Lingard. Now, Lingard is a family name. On my grandmother's side, her mother's maiden name was Lingard, and we are related to the family who started the Lingard pottery. And this is actually where Clarice Cliff worked as a very young woman before she became established. I've always found it difficult to locate this house because the road has been redeveloped. Lots of the houses have gone, been replaced with industrial units, but there are still houses along there, but it was very difficult to actually track it down. In 1939, it's just listed as new house, which was when it was built. So there's no house numbers to actually categorically tell me which one it was. But I joined a Facebook group for the area, a local history group, and someone could remember delivering to a Mr. Smith at a house called Lingard. A couple of days later, somebody else commented and said that they lived in the house. Their name was Smith, and his parents had bought the house in the 1960s. Now that ties in with when my grandparents moved away from the area. They actually relocated to North Devon. Once I had his details, I was able to see the house as it is today. You can see it's quite a distinctive looking house. The road was built actually with pairs of semi-detached houses, and this is the only one that was detached, and it's quite obvious that they didn't do much to remodel it. They just used the plans for half of one of those pairs. Today the front has been changed, new windows. The porch has been filled in, but it is still recognisable from the actual shape of the roof. My father has written on the back that the garage was built by Simon Bagot, who was his grandfather. So that was rather nice to actually be able to pin down where my father and grandparents actually lived at this time. I had a look to see what other postcards the seller had, because very often they will have a collection, or they may have bought them from someone who has or had an interest in a particular area. And that sort of led me to find another postcard which was sent to Dingle Street in Rounds Green, which is part of Oldbury. Now, because I had been looking through all of the certificates that I had, Dingle Street rang a bell, and I was able to confirm that my father was actually born in Dingle Street. Now, this postcard was sent in 1925, and my father was born much later, so there was no connection really with this postcard. And although it's addressed to a house, no number in Dingle Street, I was actually able to track that down. So I know that although it is the correct road, my father's family didn't actually live that close to where this card was sent. But I decided to buy it anyway, just because it just seemed fun to think that maybe these people might have known my ancestors, really. So that's something which really kept me occupied for some time, and this is a postcard. I actually have it in a frame, but this is it obviously outside of the frame. And this is a photograph of my father when he was christened, and my sister and myself were actually christened in the same gown, and I have that. And in the photograph are his father, his grandfather Simon, who built the garage, and my great grandfather Thomas, who's holding my father, and he is the ancestor who was living at the house where the first postcard was sent. So that's just a short insight into my own personal family history, as well as doing the research for all of the families that I've looked at for my books. I also look at obviously my own family history, and the one thing that I'm sure anyone who's done any of this research will agree with is that you've never finished. There's always more to find, and although I don't necessarily go too far back with my research, there's a lot to discover from less than 100 years ago. I mean, we're looking at when my father lived in that house Lingard, and that was in the wartime era, and it's not that long ago really, second World War, in terms of genealogy. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that short video. There's several others that you might like to look at. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook as Posted in the Past. Thank you for watching.